I guess the next one to talk about is my dad. His name was Floyd Fay Avery, and he was born in June of 1897. He was the youngest of a family of 15 children. Both of his parents were older. By the time he reached mission age, they were both deceased. He was an orphan at that point. He loved horses, and he had the goal of someday becoming a cattle farmer. He even bought some cattle when he was younger and was working some, but when he made the decision to go on his mission, he had to sell the cattle to have money to go on his mission. When he decided that he would go and fill a mission, his brothers and sisters said they would help him. They would send money to him to keep him there on his mission. But before his mission was over, the money had stopped coming in, and so he had to go back home before his mission time was up. While he was on his mission, he became interested in one of the sister missionaries, who happened to be my mother, Sister Hewlett. And when he left the mission, he told Sister Hewlett that he'd be waiting for her in Salt Lake when she got released. And he was. It took Mama a while to decide that she would go ahead and get married, but she finally did. They were married in the Salt Lake Temple and lived in Salt Lake for 2 or 3 years, but then they moved to Snowflake, Arizona, which was Mama's home. My dad was well accepted in Snowflake. Everybody loved him, and he did a lot of things in Snowflake that became traditional. If you've ever been to Snowflake or heard of Snowflake, you know that they have a rodeo every year there. And my dad was one of the men that got the rodeo started in Snowflake. They lived in the Hewlett home, and that's where they lived all the time they were in Snowflake, because my grandmother, who used to live in the home, had left and was living in California at the time. But it was in the Hewlett home where all of my siblings were born, except Uncle Bud. He was the youngest, and he was born after we moved to Provo. My dad was a farmer, and when the crops didn't cooperate very well, they decided to go to his hometown, which was Kanosh, Utah. And within the first year that they lived in Kanosh, he had an accident while he was working with the animals and was nearly killed when trampled by a bull. But he was taken care of well by the people in Kanosh, and Mama had the burden of the children while we were there. The weather in Kanosh was brutal, and farming was very tough there too. And when my oldest brother, Uncle Chad, graduated from high school, he had a scholarship to BYU, so the family packed up and moved to Provo. Daddy still struggled to find something to do. He was, like I said, he was a farmer, always raised a garden so that we'd have food to eat. He loved deer hunting and always had venison for us to eat. My dad became a carpenter, and during the Second World War, he traveled to different towns I don't remember now the towns that he went to, but he would work on factories and stuff, getting buildings built for the war effort. When the war was over, he was home. He got him a job working in the maintenance department at BYU. So the family moved to Wymount Village on the BYU campus. We lived in a very small 2-bedroom apartment. Daddy and Mom used the 1-bedroom, and the 2 girls, me and your Aunt Sue, used the other bedroom. The boys slept at the boys' dorm. It was fairly close to us. Daddy used to keep the keys, the extra keys to all of the dorms, and when those boys that lived in the dorms would get locked out of their rooms, they'd come to our house to get a key. That's the main thing I remember about our time at Wymount Village. My dad had a bad heart, and he was told by the doctors that he would spend the rest of his life sitting in a rocking chair on the front porch. Well, we all knew that wasn't going to happen, but that's the condition he was in, and he got sick one year in December and spent some time in the hospital. I don't know if it was flu or pneumonia or what it was, but anyway, in January he was taken. He was just 53, and he died. His heart took him. That's all about Daddy.